Welcome to another episode of African Mindset series. Today we're going to touch on the concept of African unity and why that is important. African unity is not a new concept. Great African minds like Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Julius Nyerere, Patrice Lumumba, Gaddafi, basically all the leaders that we now know stood for African interests, espoused the idea of Africa uniting. Now we need to understand why. Why were they pushing for that? And why is it that those who want to keep Africa underdeveloped want to keep us disunited? Let me give you some facts and figures to help illustrate the point. China has 1.4 billion citizens, all united under one flag, under one umbrella, under one economy, one army, serving the interests of China. India has 1.4 billion citizens, again, united under one economy, one flag, one country, one leader. Whereas when you come to Africa, we have 1.3 billion statistically. According to official statistics, we know it's 1.3 and growing. Probably it's nearer 1.4 billion now, but divided into 55 different nations. When you look at the EU has 550 million citizens, all operating under the EU flag. Now, when you look at these statistics and you look at Africa and how we've been divided up, because as a legacy of colonization, the Berlin Conference, we can talk about all that. We've been divided up into tiny countries by design, because divided we are weak. Imagine one African country. Eswatini is only 1 million in terms of population size. Togo is only about 8 million in terms of population size. Benin Republic, 12 million population. Go to Gabon, 2.2 million. Ghana is one of the bigger ones, 30 million, so more density. Nigeria is obviously the most populous African nation, and then you have Ethiopia. But still, compared to the might of China, the EU, United States, Africa is weak, disunited. Africa is weak when individual African nations try to form bilateral trade agreements with these powerful nations. Where do you think the balance of power lies? When the EU strikes a trade deal with tiny Togo, who do you think calls the shots? It's obvious, isn't it? The EU with their mighty economy, the EU with their higher GDP, the EU with their army. Well, they don't have an army right now, but you know what I mean. Their currency and everything, they are powerful when you look at all indicators. And then they come and say, let me strike a trade agreement with an autonomous Togo or an autonomous Ghana, an independent Cote d'Ivoire. Who do you think wins? And also what they do, because Africa is divided, they create artificial competition among African countries, which drives down the prices of our raw materials. Whereas a united Africa will have all 1.3 billion united under one flag, maybe one parliament, one currency, one passport, and more importantly, one trading platform. One trading platform where prices of our raw materials are set and where they cannot play one country against the other. The reason why currently prices of Africa's raw materials are set in Brussels, in Paris, in Western capitals and Beijing is because individual African nations do not call the shots. Individual African nations compete with each other, which means we do not have the clout to be able to determine our own prices. We do not have the clout to be able to command appropriate prices for the raw materials we produce. Collapse all of that and have one single trading platforms. We need to come to a point where we operate as though those colonial borders do not exist, where individual countries within Africa are more like states within a united Africa. That will be powerful, and that will send a signal to the rest of the world. And I know, I hear a lot of people say, oh, they will never let it happen. Oh, they will do this, they will do that. The reality is, yes, in the past, we've had charismatic leaders who have sought to push through this vision and this agenda, and it hasn't worked because they've had, they were easy targets for the imperialists. But where this desire to unite starts from the grassroots, and we build up and then obtain power through, for example, an organization like ACUP, African Continental Unity Party, which will have political parties in each of the African countries and will drive through the agenda for African unity. It will be an unstoppable force. So, I think the whole purpose of this video is to encourage us to keep pushing for African unity, because that is the only way Africa will prosper. That is the only way Africa will be able to create a power base which will stand in defense of Africans. Look around you. Who defends the interests of Africans? Is it the AU, the toothless AU, which is funded by the EU, the US and China? Or is it the individual regional blocs like ECOWAS, SADC? Are they powerful enough? I think anyone who really wants to see prosperity in Africa needs to consider and push the agenda for African unity. At that, a united Africa will be able to have a united army which will protect individual states within Africa from terrorism. And as a result, we will not need an excuse for the US or France to have army bases on our continent. At the moment, they are imposing themselves because they are negotiating with individual countries. Whereas if you have a united Africa where the decision is made by a centralized unit or a centralized parliament, it will have more clout. It will be able to say no. And on top of that, I think the advantage of having a united Africa is that you'll be able to look at Africa strategically from east to west, from north to south, and then you'll be able to determine, look at what the Chinese are doing, in Zambia and in West Africa and in this way, and you'll be able to connect the dots together and come up with a solution for Africa in general. Because at the moment, what is happening is each individual country is just looking at their own backyard. Nobody is looking at the interests of Africa as a whole, and that is what is lacking. That is why we are weak. That is why we are taken advantage of. So African unity is not just an idea, it's an imperative, it's something we need to achieve for the prosperity of this generation and generations to come. There's a lot more I can say about African unity. When you talk about security, we need a single currency. We need a single dialing code. I mean, traveling from one African nation to another, it's a chore. You have to get visas upon visas. Why? If I'm traveling here in Europe, I don't need a visa, to go to France or, other parts of Europe if I so choose. So why is it that Africa, we put in barriers between ourselves? And yet, sometimes, when somebody is traveling from Europe, US, etc., you see our officials falling over themselves to allow them to come in, because we think, they come with economic power and money, etc. We need to unite so that we can create that economic power for ourselves. We need to unite so that we can pool resources. work anywhere across the continent. Any African from South Africa should be able to go work in West Africa, and vice versa. Knock our heads together, devise a plan for Africa. Even we can, with a united Africa, you can also have control your narrative, control the media, have a powerful news outlet that represent Africa. At the moment, Nigeria has its own radio station or TV station. Ghana has its own TV station or radio station. We've got, each country has their own. So not a single one is powerful enough to reckon with the likes of CNN, BBC, etc. So a united Africa is not just an idea to espouse. It's something we have to actively work towards. It's about time Africans start seeing themselves as Africans first, before seeing themselves as Nigerians, as Ghanaians, as Ivorians, or along tribal lines. And another thing that a united Africa will do is that it will render secessionist movements powerless. Because, for example, in Ethiopia, where you get the Tigray region who wants to form their own country or succeed from the rest of Ethiopia, or, Western Togoland in Ghana, Biafra in Nigeria, all these would no longer be appealing to people because they will all be part of the one African bloc. Even if they were to split up, they know, well, we are still part of the one united African nation in that sense, and we are just a state. So it will remove the wind from the sails of all these secessionist movements, because they have that African identity. That will be the primary one. That will be the one identifier for all Africans, and not our tribes or individual nations. So I think we need to really consider this idea of African unity and press forward and make it happen. Make that dream happen. The Addis Ababa Conference, 1963, where Kwame Nkrumah tried to present the idea of African unity. We need to revisit it. We need to have Addis Ababa 2.0, and this time make it happen and make our ancestors proud. Thank you.